Hey artists, I have a new project for you today. We are going to be making batik style pumpkins. And so you're going to follow along with me for all the steps.
Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take our piece of chalk and we're going to draw out the shape of our pumpkin. Now, we don't want to have a little tiny pumpkin on this big paper, so you want to make your pumpkin nice and big. So we're going to start with our yellow chalk and we're going to draw a round oval shape with the yellow chalk. And then next to that oval shape, I'm going to go out and down with another oval. And I'm going to repeat that again. I'm going to go out and down with another oval shape. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Out and down, and then kind of curve it back up. Out and down and curve it back up. And so that is going to be most of our pumpkin shape. I do want to put kind of a rectangle shape stem at the top. And to make it look more round, I'm going to take my piece of chalk and put a little spot back here to show the roundness of the pumpkin. The next thing I want to do with my chalk is I'm going to add some leaf shapes down here. So you can see I'm just doing kind of like a lemon or football shape to show the leaves on the ground under our pumpkin. So there's just some leaves there. All right. Now it's a little difficult to see, but I'm hoping you are able to see those oval shapes and the leaf shapes underneath. We're using chalk because at the end of this, we will wipe off the chalk and that's where the paint is going to go. We're going to take the chalk and put it to the side, and for the rest of the time, we're going to be using some oil pastels. And you know, oil pastels are really sticky, and if you put paint or water over them, they kind of just push it off to the side. So to get this pumpkin to look really 3D, I'm going to layer some different colors. I'm going to do the middle section first, and I'm going to use my yellow first. And so I'm going to kind of just draw some up and down lines with my yellow oil pastel. Now I am trying not to draw where the chalk is. I'm staying inside the lines like it's a coloring sheet. And if you have an oil pastel that has some extra color on it like this, it is not a big deal because we are blending colors, so that will not matter. So after I use yellow, I like to add maybe a little bit of peach in there. And so the peach and the yellow kind of show the lighter parts of the pumpkin. And then I can take this orange and really kind of layer over that. And it's starting to look more like those pumpkin colors. And so I'm staying inside my chalk line. And I'm just coloring in with my oil pastel. Push, push, push. And now when I push kind of together here, you can see the colors kind of start to blend. So I'm staying inside of there. All right. I might pick up my yellow again. If I put the yellow on top of the orange, then I can really blend it together. And that is looking pretty nice. It's blending that peach and that orange, and it looks like there's like a shadow. Very nice. The next thing I'm going to do is color in my next section of my pumpkin. I'm going to do the same thing. Now I'm not coloring where the chalk is. So it's like I'm going to leave that area with just the chalk, and I'm putting my oil pastel inside of here. And then I can put some peach if I want, just to kind of blend those colors together. And I'm doing one section of the pumpkin at a time with the oil pastel. So I'm going to go down here. Kind of blend that together. And in this section, but I'm keeping that space. I'm keeping that space in that line where I had the chalk. Just kind of blending this down. Maybe this time I'll use my peach to blend it. It's like if I put another layer on top, it kind of smooths it out because I don't want it to just look like a bunch of lines. I'd like it to look smoother. That looks a lot smoother. I'm using a circle motion, kind of blending those together. That is looking really, really nice. So now I just move to the next section. Again, taking my oil pastel, coloring inside the chalk lines, not on top of the chalk. So I can kind of put that yellow through here. And put some peach. And the orange. I've even seen some people take some red and they put that on top, and that could make a darker shadow with your colors. It's up to you. It's really fun when we're blending the oil pastels because they can just layer and layer and layer, and they look so cool. So you could take a little bit of red here if you wanted to make a darker orange as you blend them together. That could look cool. And then like I like to just take the peach back over it to kind of smooth it out. All right, I've got half of the pumpkin done. Let me do the same thing in the other sections, not coloring on top of the chalk, putting those layers of yellow and peach, orange, and a little red to make my pumpkin look very 3D. All right, I got each section completed with that color. I want to also not forget these two little sections of the back side of the pumpkin. So again, I'm going to kind of put some yellow in there, and then I'll layer on some of my orange back there, making sure that I don't go over where the chalk is. So I'm like leaving that little space, almost like I'm coloring inside of a coloring book, just staying in these spaces here. All right, looking pretty fabulous. I'm blending it with this little piece of peach. It kind of blends that orange and yellow together. For this part, I'm probably going to use some brown. So I'm going to take my brown oil pastel and I'm going to color in the stem. And it always looks nice to blend colors together. So you could put some peach on there or some green on there, just to kind of change it up a little bit. So staying inside of my chalk line. And then you can get some green and start doing your leaves down here. So you're going to stay inside the lines with your oil pastel. And this is a lighter green. I know we have some dark green oil pastels you could layer on top. You could even, I've got some blue here. You could even put a little blue in there. Draw your leaf lines. Blend it just to give it a little bit of depth. Okay, so after you are done coloring these in and making sure you don't color on top of your chalk is your guideline, and you're keeping that there. So I'm coloring inside these, taking my time. All right, the next thing I'm going to want to color is the ground. So I could use some of that brown again, just to kind of show down here where this pumpkin is growing in the dirt. I want to be careful to go around the leaves, but not on top of that yellow chalk. So I can put a little dirt down here. Oops, I went over it anyway because I wasn't being careful. So carefully coloring around, avoiding the chalk. I'm going to go over to this side and finish up the ground. And if you want to add like a little bit of peach on your dirt, you can, just to add some like highlights, some different color there. And then you're going to do your sky. So you're going to take your blue and you're just going to carefully cover that area. Now, if you want to add some white to make it a lighter blue, I think that looks really cool. You kind of just put the blue on there. And then if you add white on top, it just kind of gives it almost like it's a cloudy day kind of look, kind of smooths it out. So you can go ahead and do that. You're just going to fill in all of this background space behind your pumpkin with your blue sky, leaving that little area where the chalk is. So we're just going to finish coloring in the whole sky with oil pastel. All right, to take our pumpkin and make it have that batik look, what we're going to do is I'm just going to give you a damp paper cloth. And you're just going to kind of wipe that chalk off. And you'll probably still see it, but this kind of gets a little bit of it off. And where the chalk is, and any of the little places that have like holes between the oil pastel, that's where our black paint is going to show up. So I have just a little bit of a black liquid watercolor. And I'm just going to gently paint my picture. And so I'm just kind of painting all the space, and you'll see it resists it. The oil pastel resists the water and it kind of bubbles up. But then in the places where the chalk was, that's where this paint soaks in, and any little spaces that we had. And this is what gives it that cool look like batik. And batik is usually done on cloth, but we can make that same kind of effect on paper by taking this black watercolor and just smoothing it over. I love this look. So if it were batik on actual cloth, we'd be using some wax, and then we dip the cloth down into like a clothing dye. But instead of that dye, we're using our watercolor, and oh my gosh, it just makes the colors come out so bright. And so now I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm just going to kind of smooth it off. Oh wow, I love it. And then I'm going to go set it on the drying rack to dry. What a beautiful fall pumpkin we made batik style by using our chalk, our oil pastels, and a little bit of black watercolor. I cannot wait to see what you create.